Welcome back. Today we're in New Orleans. We arrived yesterday about 5 o'clock. They're 2 hours ahead of us.
2 hours ahead, and we're staying in a place called Laplace. We're not staying in the city for the first night because we've decided for the first day we hired a car. We're at Cajun Pride Swamp Tours this morning. We've got an hour and a half where we go through the swamps, see alligators, I guess. Not much thought went into this other than the fact that this was literally 5 minutes from where the hotel we were staying last night.
Yeah, so today I think we're doing this and then 1 or 2 plantations, which I'm more looking forward to the plantation. I've done some swamp stuff in Florida, so I'm not sure if it's going to be similar. Still interested in doing it. We've tried to come to New Orleans this is our 4th time.
4th attempt and finally made it.
We failed, one because our house was delayed when it was getting built, and then they told us it was ready to move into and it wasn't, so we'd cancelled our trip. The last time was because we were going to Australia.
And the very first time was because of a hurricane here.
Oh yeah, they had a hurricane, which they have all the time. So 4th time, we're now here. I'm looking forward to the plantations, and then tomorrow we're going to the part that everybody knows, Bourbon Street, French Quarter.
We're going into the city centre.
But I think, how far from the town are we now?
I don't know, about 30 minutes.
Okay, so we're 30 minutes outside. It's very different here. So the hotel that we're in is kind of a working man's hotel, so it's where all the construction workers were. And yesterday, the lady asked us, "What brings you here?" And I thought, she knows, we don't belong here. We finished up on the swamp tour. It was actually a lot better than I had anticipated. I think it's like an hour and 15 minutes. And the person going through it is multiple generations deep into being a proud swamp person. It's so different. And I think we mentioned this in our previous videos. I don't think people understand the diversity of people that are Americans. So comparing this to a Californian, the modern progressive technology forward, to somebody that has, I don't know, he said many acres of swampland, and he basically sustains himself from the swamp, is so different and in contrast.
Completely different. His accent, his use of language was completely different. His way of living. He was talking about his daughter that's trying to build up money through Cash App, and he's like, "What is this Cash App, and why is she saving money there? I deal in real money."
Yeah, it's so interesting. The swamp thing was fun, and we saw loads and loads and loads of alligators. But
the whole thing was just full. But not just that, it was wildlife, raccoons, squirrels, but types of birds that we haven't seen before, lots of fish. So it was more than just seeing alligators.
And I'm sure lots of people do know, but for people that don't, this is actually a very heavy French-speaking part of America. So a lot of people speak French, their grandparents would have spoken French, and mixed in with, I think the reason why Creole is used is it's only where French is used, isn't it?
It's like the mix.
So generally places, where is it? Dominican Republic? Does that have Creole people?
I'm not sure.
There's some parts of the Caribbean that are Creole, here in the US Creole, and then where you're from Creole people. So they have this mix of French, with pure French, broken French, English, broken English, mixed all in. So sometimes I think they forget that they're using French words or French sentences. Yeah. So he called us over and the guy said, "Oh, maybe you didn't pick that up," but he was talking in French there. And we're like, "But we're all English." So I think he forgets, or he did it on purpose.
But I highly recommend the tour. We paid $61 or $62 in total, including taxes for the both of us. We had a car, so we didn't need them to pick us up from the city. I think it's an extra $20, something like that each, if you wanted them to pick you up from the city as well.
So now what we're doing, we've driven 20 minutes, maybe not
20
even
minutes,
that.
Went to a barbecue place. So something to note here, lots of casual, so we've mentioned we're in Laplace, I think is how you pronounce it.
Close enough.
And lots of casual dining places here, Cajun, very low, you can tell it's family restaurants here, lots of them. And we just went to a barbecue place, which was very good. So we've been very impressed with the food so far, but very rich and not very healthy so far.
You can tell why a lot of people in the southern states are the way they are. They're very dense foods, calorie rich.
We're fueled for the day. And we've just arrived at the Whitney Plantation. So when you come to New Orleans, there's lots of plantations to choose from. Oak, Alley, Whitney, Laura. It was quite hard, but I just picked one of them. It was one of the recommended ones, and yeah, It's your first time to one. You've never been, have you?
Yeah, I've never done a plantation. I understand what they are and some of the history, but I've never been to one to actually hear the history. Unfortunately, we've arrived a bit late because of our very dense lunch, and we're not going to be on a guided tour, at least I don't think so, because I saw them just going over there. So we're going to have to self-guide, so I don't really know how that works. Do we have to read plaques and stuff? How do we...
Oh, gosh.
What?
I think so. You'll read. There's audio. There's an audio.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I did tell him.
I don't listen to this stuff. That's why I need like an audio guide to my life. I didn't know. But yeah, I was wondering how we self-teach ourselves. Just finished our my first plantation. Is it kind of what I expected, or exactly what I expected? You don't know the information you're going to receive, but it was delivered in the way that I would expect it. We didn't do, as we said, the guided one, but we had the audio tour. It's pretty good the way it guides you through. So you have numbers on the player, and you walk to the numbers, you type the number in, and then it gives you additional information, but you can spend as much time as you want at each one. This one specifically was more a commemoration to the enslaved, more so than the information about the place.
Yeah, because I was explaining to Anne, this is my second plantation. I done one in Charleston, and that was much more about the history, what happened to that, what was happening on that plantation in context of the time, whereas this was far more a memorial for those who were enslaved and focused far more on their history than the last one. Which was nice. I like the fact that, and obviously it's only my second one, but it's nice that you can go to different plantations and learn something different and take something different away.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely do another one that has a different perspective, or at least a different story, so you can get a much wider view on what happened. Some of the stuff is quite, well, all of it's bad, but in the sense of how they've done it. So they had, I guess she must have been a historian type woman who spent 15 years collating truthful data that had been misrepresented of, I was like 107,000, their original names and things like that, and it's represented on the walls. If anybody in Europe's been to, which wall is it you go to for the war memorial, and it's got the list of the names, and it made me think of that, which of course is its own history, but we don't have any representation.
When we went for
World War II, and you see on each one of these sites might have thousands, or in this case hundreds of thousands, and that was happening all across the south here.
That's of the ones they are aware of.
Well, yeah, which apparently is a small percentage of the actual people. And then the one here where there was the heads represented by an artist, which was quite a lot to take in. But definitely something worth doing. Again, fairly cheap. I think it's $25 per person.
$25 each to do a self-guided tour with the audio tape, or it's $35 if you wanted to do the guided tour, except you have to be here at the particular times. But I would say it's extremely well worth it, and there's just something really nice about immersing yourself in what was the history here. The only thing I would say, and a few people have mentioned this, when you're if you're planning on doing plantation tours here, some people say, oh, let's try and do 2 or 3. I would say that's quite heavy going. I don't know if mentally I would want to do more than maybe 2 in a day.
Yeah, I think you could do 2 in a day. It is quite heavy. I don't know if you mentioned, but it was about an hour and a half, the self-guided tour. Obviously, you go a little bit quicker, a little bit slower, but it's quite heavy just taking in all of the information. I'm sure if you had the guided tour and they were telling you about it, it would be as well. So you might not just want to take in 4.5, 6 hours worth of this stuff. Not that people shouldn't know what it is, because certainly coming from the UK, we don't get any of this stuff. And I struggled in history because it just never felt true. Whereas you're in these plantations are the plantations that people are on.
I love the fact
it feels a lot more real.
And yeah, you're absolutely immersed in it, and it feels a lot more real. And it's a history that we were never taught, to Ant's point, in the UK.
Yeah. Right, now I think we're heading, did you say 40 minutes?
I think so, depending on traffic, to go into the town.
New Orleans proper. It's probably not called that, but the part that people know, Bourbon Street, where people do, is it Mardi Gras?
Yeah, French Quarter, all of that. I think we're just outside, so we're not right in French Quarter.
But close enough.
Exactly. So we're going to drop the car off there, and then essentially we'll be on foot for the rest of the days, because we won't really need a car. And yeah, let's see what New Orleans has to bring. I'm
looking forward to having a cold beer now. Oh, one last thing. It's unlike Vegas. For the people that don't realize the size of the US, this is in the south, very south, swampy and very humid, or muggy as we would say in the UK.
It couldn't be any more different in look, feel. It's like a different country. They talk different. It feels different. Actually, I have to say something. So we're here in mid-April. It's about 28 degrees C and 84. Is that?
Yeah, somewhere around 84 Fahrenheit.
But overcast, which
very low clouds.
So hardly any sunshine. But I would say perfect for if you're doing tours, because you're not.
The sun isn't oppressive. Now imagine, we're whinging about being oppressed by the sun. Imagine where we've just come from. It's brutal. Anyway, we're off.
Day 2 in New Orleans. After the Plantation yesterday, we drove, I think it took us a good hour, because when we got into New Orleans City, there was a fair amount of traffic.
Yeah, it was definitely over an hour for 27 miles.
Yeah, so we dropped the car off by the convention center and then got an Uber to our hotel. Had a really good conversation with our Uber driver, actually. It was lovely.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
Something about here, and generally where we go in America, everyone's friendly.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to have a conversation. People were talking about my tattoos and where we come from, and
despite what I think the point you're making is, despite what people would love to believe, that is America's this horrible place, nobody likes anyone, it's a war zone. They're some of the friendliest people I would say that we meet around the world,
and generally want to help you and give you advice. Somebody gave us a link to their cabin in Nashville.
Oh yeah, that was really nice.
Very
they have black bears that live right next to their cabin. Slightly concerning, but still fun.
But we're considering going now.
I would definitely go.
And especially for me and Amp, because we don't know where to go in America other than the very typical tourist spots. So we love when we hear about these random other places. So yesterday we got to New Orleans City. We checked into the Jung Hotel and Residence, I think it's called.
I don't remember any names of anything.
Anne's just been going with the flow with this trip.
It's a very nice hotel. It's huge, and the bedroom's probably twice as big as a normal hotel.
Really,
do you remember how much it was?
No.
Okay, we'll insert the price of it, but recommend staying there. There isn't much going on. It's got a rooftop pool, which we haven't visited yet, but the bar and everything's closed, but the rooms and the cleanliness is really nice. In particular, because one thing I have to say about New Orleans is it's a lived-in city. And that's a polite way
lived in,
of saying it's very different to Summerlin, which is manicured and pristine
and clean.
Always. Yeah. It's a very, very lived-in city here. It's very different to what we're used to. It's far more similar to East London, if you're from the UK. It's got that same kind of feel to
or maybe the dirty parts of Manhattan. Basically, Manhattan can be very dirty as well.
Haven't been to Manhattan in
years.
Yeah,
actually.
Years.
So we're actually staying on Canal Street, and it's about, I would say, 15 minutes away from the French Quarter, Bourbon Street. So last night we went to a restaurant called Sun Chong, which was really nice. It was the perfect blend for us because we love Asian food, and it was a blend of Asian, fusion
Southern.
Creole, Southern, which was absolutely amazing. And then we walked around Bourbon Street for a little bit last night. What was interesting to me, and if you haven't watched it, I have a video of when I visited Nashville a couple of months ago. Often people talk about going to Vegas, Nashville, or New Orleans for partying, having fun, and there are definite similarities. To me, Nashville and New Orleans are far more similar, except Nashville's the country version.
And this is the hip, so it's a good point. Every shop that we've been into, including the restaurants, will be playing hip-hop, R&B,
jazz,
lots of jazz, and lots of like soul music. So even if there isn't any vocals over the top, it will just be these long soul tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's basically the counter to the country.
Exactly, and for me, far more similar in its expanse. But Vegas is just something different. I don't think they're comparable to Vegas, in my opinion. And I would say New Orleans, like we said, is the dirtiest of them all, unfortunately. Also, the other thing I would say, a great city with a lot of culture, but it seems as though, I described it to Anne as, it's the city that America's forgotten about. It's as if it's not being cared for. I don't know what happened after Hurricane Katrina.
I think that is a real thing. So it's hard to describe, but the roads are either not finished or they were finished maybe 40 years ago, and then they're just like, that's good enough. Whatever's left is what's left. The trams, although I love the way they look, one is going past in a moment, you'll see it. I don't know where it actually goes to. It just seems to run in a straight line, and you don't see them that often. The walkways, they'll leave, what are they called? The manhole covers off. So you'll be walking down the street.
We'll
you have to
include
dodge
some of that in so you can see.
Dodge these 3-foot holes that are into the
You
ground.
really do have to watch where you're stepping here.
I've never been to a city in the US that is not as cared for as this one here.
Yeah.
I don't
know where the
history,
tax money's going here, by the way.
Yeah, out
Very
of the state,
questionable.
probably. Yeah.
Made it to Jackson Square and had no idea where this was or what it was before.
Yeah, I still don't know what it is.
Actually, I don't really know, but it's a square, and we've watched a few things on New Orleans, but he couldn't remember. And what's interesting when you get away from Bourbon Street is it does get, we've mentioned about how not clean. It's a lot cleaner when you're...
Oh, this square is very nice. But
this is maintained.
There's a museum, well, I'm guessing that's a church. I don't know if it's a cathedral. What's the difference between a cathedral and a church?
I feel like Ant's asking me all these questions on this trip and I don't have the answers.
It's some religious monument.
Everyone's going to come away. Selena does not know much.
They already told you that you're not the sharpest tool in the box.
Yeah, that was on the other video.
But yeah, here it's a little bit more like Greenwich, where it has some chaos in the streets, and then you come away.
Greenwich in London, UK.
Yeah. But this square is really nice. We've just relaxed on the bench for a little while. I can see that there's lots of shops, like ice cream shops, dotted around the edge. And one of the things, which isn't related to this bit, is because there's so many bars and restaurants, they are in competition with each other. So food is cheaper here than it is in Las Vegas, even off the strip. And drinks can be really cheap. We stood outside a bar just having a look in, which is open 24 hours. And $5 mimosa, $2 beers.
Bellinis.
Yeah, $5 Bellinis.
From 8 a.m. till 3 p.m.
So if you want to get your drink on, come here. We're not big drinkers, so we can't. They were trying to entice us in. We'll probably have one in half an hour at 12.
For a place to spend the weekend and have some fun, this is a lot cheaper than coming to Vegas.
Yeah, you'll probably spend more on your hotel than the whole trip here.
Yeah. The plan for the rest of the day is we don't really have a plan. We're going to venture out. We're going to go, I think there's the port in front of us now. Have a look at the ships. I discovered an area called not me. Google Maps showed me.
You're talking like you're Columbus.
Yeah,
it was already here, but discovered.
I did not discover. I saw a place called Frenchman Street. So we really don't know much about New Orleans other than the most common places that everyone knows about, which is Bourbon. But saw Frenchman Street that actually looks like a more artsy, low-key version of that. So we're planning to head over there maybe a bit later because they say that it doesn't really come alive there until 6 p.m. as well. Mm-hmm. And apparently they've got a lot of the bands playing there, and I would quite like to go into one of the bars where they're playing jazz music. So
maybe we'll drink pre-3 p.m. so it's cheap, and
then
watch
get a couple of our happy hour drinks in.
2 drinks, we'll still be drunk at 6.
Me and Ant do not drink a lot at all. We're not really drinkers. We try.
We do try, and we've got a lot better. Well, when you say better, I don't know if it's better that we're drinking more, but we do drink more because we drink socially.
It's only socially.
But we can't. I think we drink 1 for every 7 that other people.
Yeah, we can't keep up. We're lightweights. We walked from the port area down, and then just to the right was a whole section with lots of shops. The famous Café du Monde with their beignets. We still haven't had one yet. We do plan on having.
Do you buy them in ones or bulk? Is that how do they come? Are they big? Are they small?
I think they're about this.
Maybe it's 6. It's half a dozen, maybe.
Yeah, or maybe 4 of them. We'll find out. Like I said, Ant's asking me many questions on this trip that I don't have the answers to yet. But we will try some on this trip. Ant doesn't think you don't typically like those sort of things.
I love pastry. Well, what's weird is I prefer pastry over cake.
Yeah.
You prefer cake over pastry, but you love pastries, donuts when they're hot.
Yeah.
And I don't like
He's a
hot
weirdo.
Donuts.
He doesn't like anything hot.
Nah. Not anything. I like my food hot. You like your food cool.
Oh, so something I noticed here, just behind us, we'll get it on the camera, is they've got CCTV, which is interesting. In the UK, that is very normal, having cameras
in all your major city centres, whereas in the US, we're definitely not used to it. Actually, you can
Interesting. Yeah,
tell
I don't
us
know.
where you live. Do you have CCTV in the city centres?
Maybe it's specifically noticeable here to tell people it's here. It's more discreet maybe in some other towns.
Yeah,
potentially.
and of course you will have them in shopping malls, I believe, but in the UK it's just normal to have them out on the street. So if any crime happens, they're generally checking the local CCTV. But yeah, that was quite an interesting thing. The market was pretty cool, not that huge, very
It's quite
tiny.
small, yeah.
You can buy various trinkets, bags, there's food, sauces, various food being sold there, but definitely worth of stroll. And I would say that's quite nice that within this it's not a large area in my opinion, you can walk within 30 minutes from the bars, restaurants, to the markets, to the park area where Jackson Square was. So yeah, really nice. The other bit that we've both been talking a lot about is the architecture of all the buildings, the homes, which presumably are literally people's homes, which reminds me a little bit of Charleston, but Charleston was cleaner overall. But Charleston had all the really nice homes in the main kind of town bit.
We went back and got very sleepy. Well, I did anyway. I nearly fell asleep, but we ended up coming out to Frenchman Street.
Yes, and we were told when we were dropped off here that this is the better place to be over Bourbon Street, which was funny because we didn't even know this place existed until today.
I don't know if it's better, it's different, less
Yeah.
chaos. It's a little bit more hemmed in, I would say. It's chaos on Bourbon Street, whereas it's
Yeah.
quite nice here. A little bit more chilled. But then again, we can't measure because it's a Thursday night. It's not a Friday or a Saturday night where it might be chaotic.
Definitely can't.
It's definitely a lot of fun, I would say. The more time I spend here, the more I can understand why people would really like it here. You can't be bored. And what you notice, if you sit down, we just sat down and had one beer. We said we're not really drinkers. We've had a single beer since we've been here. But when you sit down and you see how people interact, and pretty much everybody that's passing that's a local knows all of the people in the shops, and they're all communicating with each other. So it has a real community, even though this is a tourist area. In Las Vegas on the Strip, nobody knows
one's
anyone.
saying hi to each other
Yeah.
as if they meet each other every day.
So it's kind of nice that getting used to how diverse it is here, and hearing French quite often and different languages is nice. It's fun. It's very different. Coming from where we come from in Summerlin, it's super different, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very different. So Frenchman's a bit more artsy, apparently. We just
Well, not
walked-
apparently. We went through the
Yeah,
art.
we went through the
Bazaar.
art bazaar and lots of really nice pieces. So similar-ish to the French market this morning, but far more local people that are artists, painters, lots of jewellery. So that was really nice. So you can experience that in between having drinks.
Yeah, lots of bars and restaurants here. Lots of people having lots and lots of fun. So far, it's been pretty tame. Nobody crazy.
Yeah, and I know this is a little bit unfair to compare because it was a Saturday night in Nashville, but less noticeably drunk people on the streets, but they're still obviously drunk people.
Yeah, just not too bad. And everybody's been really friendly so far. What are we doing now?
We are going to continue down the street and then maybe find another place to have some drinks, maybe eat if we get hungry. Oh, so crawfish, super popular in Louisiana in general.
For
and
people that don't know, that is what it's known for as its main food thing, which is crawfish from the swamps, I guess. Which sounds rough, but yeah.
And there's a particular season, there's a particular time where they come into season. So everyone's waiting from, I think, end of January, early February for crawfish to come in. What's interesting is it's not actually that easy to find crawfish in the French Quarter, and I expected coming here you'd find lots of restaurants that were offering a crawfish boil, which wasn't the case, and we ended up going to Terrytown about
Yeah, something like that. Terrytown, 15, 20 minutes away.
yeah, and what was it, $6 a pound, super cheap,
Very
really
cheap.
good. So if you do come to New Orleans and you're struggling, just go outside of the French Quarter and you'll be able to.
And it was very good. So it's the classic, I guess, seafood, shellfish type place. But you can either get it boiled in the bag or you can have it outside of the bag. But if you're going to buy something like crawfish in Vegas, it's usually the tiny ones out of season,
Yeah.
and it's about $14, $15, $16 a pound. So to get it for $6 is extremely
Too
cheap.
cheap.
What else? Oh no, we had king crab, which wasn't the best king crab.
No,
it's a
definitely
little
not
bit
the best.
dry.
Yeah, I think they overcooked it.
Yeah, I think so. But oddly, they sold probably some of the best chicken wings that we've had also. So you can get your shellfish and your chicken wings.
Wings.
It's the South, so
Anything goes.
well, definitely fried chicken
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
everywhere.
It is day 3 in New Orleans. This morning we decided to take an Uber to Frenchman Street and have breakfast there because I fancied something a bit lighter, and also it was a traditional French breakfast. But I would
Yeah.
say it was very good. And interestingly, if any of you have watched our videos from Australia, you will know how
Oh,
much
yeah.
we've commented on how amazing the coffee is in Australia and how terrible it is here. However, what did we find today?
What did we find today?
That we had good coffee for the first time
Yeah.
in New Orleans, which kind of makes sense.
We've walked down to a place called, what's it called? I always forget this name. Sazerac. No.
We've walked to Sazerac House.
Sazerac House, which is the cocktail of New Orleans. But the relevance is, we just found out, even in the 1800s, they had 800 and something coffee shops. Because back then, people would sit in the coffee shop to have either coffee or a drink and discuss business.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that the coffee was good here. Because
Yeah.
I think it was the French that brought all of this stuff
Coffee
over.
and then they brought other wonderful things such as cognac, which was the Sazerac family, which
Yeah.
then became what Sazerac is today in terms of a whiskey-based Sazerac. And in this, so we've gone to the Sazerac House, which is a free tour that you can do in New Orleans, and they essentially just check your ID, give you a wristband, and it is probably one of the best.
Yeah, it's a very
tours.
interactive, very informative tour that includes history of New Orleans, history of who was here, and alcohol production,
Yeah.
and the shipment of alcohol here. But then also you find out bits about the coffee shops, which I had no idea. So again, you can learn so much in America. America, bad coffee. New Orleans, not bad coffee.
Exactly. The whole place is amazing, and when I say it's the best tour for any in comparison to any distillery. This isn't a proper distillery, but you learn about the history. You get 3 cocktails included as part of that.
Free,
Tiny.
tasty,
I didn't-
10 millilitres, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. They're not
20
not
millilitres,
full
maybe.
cocktails. I should correct that. And they were very interesting.
I liked 2 of them. I really
Yeah.
liked one of them. I sort of liked one of them, and the other one not really for me. It tastes like children's cough medicine, so it tasted of lemon and honey
Yeah.
with a medicinal undertone,
Yeah.
which wasn't that great. But everything was free, so everything free is good.
Yeah, exactly, and a good way to escape the heat in New Orleans. Today the sun actually came out, so we felt the difference. And yeah, just really opulent, very well thought out, really cool sections where you can interact with a pretend bartender and select
yeah.
a drink, and they'll make the drink for you and they'll say take a sip, or you can interact with these other areas where you can say about this drink, tell me what cocktails you can make from
Yeah.
this. So it's very interactive, which is a very different take on any other place that teaches you about the history of alcohol.
But you cannot bring kids in with your ID, which
Oh,
you
yeah,
said
yeah.
at the front. So if you're with your children, you have to leave them or you can't go.
That's all right, just leave them on the street, they'll be fine.
It's a bit weird that you're not allowed to have kids because they
I
don't have
know,
to drink.
exactly. I would imagine it would be fine.
Or maybe you are allowed kids and they just don't get a ban. But we didn't see any children
maybe.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Someone find out and let us know when you come in. So our final day in New Orleans, as we found out, they say it 3 or 4 different ways
Yeah.
depending on where you're from. We're flying out at 5 o'clock today. It's now just gone 2 o'clock. So we've had a fairly relaxed morning. We've gone eating breakfast, which was a bit of a miss for you. I didn't get it quite right, but it's been good the other days.
Yeah, and actually the food across the entire trip has been really good. And last night we had a really nice meal at somewhere called May Pop. I wasn't feeling too great,
Yeah.
but the food was amazing, and highly recommend that restaurant alongside as well as Sun Chong as well.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably our best meal last night. And for those of you that have watched our Australia videos, we go on about their set menus.
Yeah.
It was a set menu, and just like I said, it was either $80 US which is like 120, 130 Australian, or $110 for their set menu, not including drinks and all of the extras. And the portions are probably 1/5 the size.
Yeah,
tiny.
definitely. But I would say the quality of the food was
very
very good.
And like you said, actually, I think probably one of the best food experiences I've had in the US. It isn't to say it's as complete as other places, but everywhere we've gone has been pretty good.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely one of the better places. The coffee, we've actually found some decent coffee here. Still not better than Australia.
Yeah,
but decent.
Good, very good coffee. So just before we get the taxi to the airport, we're going to go get our last po' boys. I don't know which one I'm getting. Apparently it's a contemporary with the original po' boy mix. What that means, I don't know. You're going to go for something fish?
I don't know. I might go vegetarian.
Oh God, no! Tried to get me to go to a vegan restaurant.
I did not. It's our neighbours who.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm willing to try a lot of things, but I'm not wasting $500 on a goddamn vegan meal. No, I never go for veg stuff. Anyway, we're going to get our po' boys, then we're going to get the taxi, jump on a plane and head home, which I'm looking forward to.
Thanks for watching.